Alright, as you can see, we've got the bottom door removed here. I got it attached, I got the top door attached. It was all working fine, but I decided that it's a little too, number one, it's too heavy. Number two, the inherent weakness created by having three separate panels here is really not as stable as I'm looking for long term. So I'm gonna be redoing the doors. That's right, redoing the doors entirely. I'll be using 1/2-inch plywood here to make the outer and inner layers of the door. Sandwiched in between, there's going to be 1 inch of insulation and then aluminum frame all around for reinforcement. It's one of the other things that I was missing on the last build. The wood was strong in the middle, but even with the three separate pieces, they would bend at the joints, and obviously not going to work long term. So we're going to build a much stronger and probably a little bit of a lighter door.
So I don't have any footage from installing the rest of the wood and the insulation because my camera SD card was full that day. But all you really missed was me cutting a lot of wood, gluing wood, clamping wood, a lot of gluing, clamping, cutting, all that kind of good stuff. And installation of the insulation, pretty straightforward, same as you've seen before in the first video. I do want to mention those two crossbars in the middle, they are reinforced with aluminum angle, so to prevent any kind of flexing from happening in the panel itself. That's the only real interesting part that you guys may have missed.
the edges where the aluminum is attached, it's kind of bowing out just slightly, like a couple millimeters throughout the length of the side of the panel. So what I'm going to do is I'll go through later. This side is actually really tight, but I had to trim the other side because this door was a little bit too wide to fit it initially. So I trimmed a little bit off the other side, but now there's a tiny little gap in the aluminum, between the aluminum and the wood, and I'll show you that here. So you can see this gap right here. It's creating a little bit of a tightness. You could see the door didn't close smoothly, but it fits once it's in there. It's not like it took much force, but there's just a little bit of bowing in there. You can see how the distance kind of fluctuates a teeny tiny bit along the length of that. So I'm thinking a few screws in between each of the bolts would tighten that up enough so that it's a smooth close. Compare that to the other side over here, which is super tight. See, there's not even a gap here because this is the side that I did not have to trim afterwards. So initially they were both tight like this, and yeah. So I'll get those bolts in there. The hinge actually worked on the first try. Looks like I got the hinges seated properly, so you can see we are. Let me get the camera angle. Here you go. Completely flush, perfectly flush with the back, which is one of the goals that I was going for in terms of stealth. This is, you know, stealth is one of the requirements on this build, and small things like that, they stick out to me. You know, the average person might not notice that, oh, the back is sticking out an inch or two beyond the back of the truck. That must be somebody's tiny home. That's probably in all likelihood never going to happen, but for me, I'm a perfectionist. I wanted to make sure that this thing was super legit and withstood any kind of scrutiny. At the end of the day, it's going to look exactly like a normal box truck with no indications that it's a stealth camper van or a tiny home. I've got vinyl rolls on the way to recreate the look of the old door, so I'm going to coat the whole thing in the vinyl wrap, and then I don't know if I'm going to draw lines with Sharpie or what to simulate the appearance of garage door panels, because like I said, this is stealth is high priority. So next step is take down the top, and I'm going to redo the top in the same way I did the bottom. I'm not going to have any aluminum on the top. The top's just going to be a basic wood with the insulation. There's no need for aluminum because it's not going to be bearing any load, and I want it to be as light as possible so that it can be held up with a couple of gas struts. So Doing the same strategy that I was using on the bottom door. Gonna have the outer border. This is where the aluminum edge is on the door itself. So this is gonna come up. There's an 1.5 inch of aluminum, and then this is where the plywood top is gonna be, just like this guy right here. Got the 1.5 inch in here to flush with this, and then I could have the plywood. So I got to make an inside border that I can mount the plywood to. Let me stuff the insulation in there, cover it with plywood, and then we're done. Next day it was super cold and rainy, so I decided to move things into the truck as opposed to sitting at home and using the excuse not to do any work. The garage door was broken, so it wouldn't have been easy for me to move stuff in and outside of the garage. It's been cold and rainy here lately, but as you can see, we were able to work inside the truck, which was nice. We got the top panel completed, and we just have to get that mounted now. Hopefully we get that done today. See how if it works better than the last one. Obviously, I've revised my strategy for mounting it, and now that I've got the bottom patio completed, and it's actually strong enough to hold a load this time. You saw that I had the tripods mounted on there to hold the top level door. I'll do the same strategy this time. Hopefully instead of 3 hours, it'll only take me like 20 minutes to get it up and attached, but fingers crossed. It's freezing out here today. It's at like 45 degrees, so we're gonna see if we can stay warm while we have light and get it done. Let's go. Go. So, what we got is a door that closes top and bottom panels. Now, it doesn't close flush just with gravity. So that's going to be accounted for with the whatever locking closing mechanism I have. Still working on that, figuring out the details and how exactly this whole thing is going to open and close. I think I'm going to go with a winch for the lower half so I can raise and lower it with a button. I might do hydraulics for the top because that's a little bit lighter. This did end up actually being about, I would say, about the same weight as the other door. So got sawdust in my mouth. So yeah, it's not too heavy. I think hydraulics, even a gas lift, a couple gas lifts on there would hold it up. But again, I want to have some kind of locking mechanism for closing and then as automated as possible to open. Nice and clean in here, so we are ready. I think we're ready to start doing the interior, flooring and walls.